All right, what's up, TikTok? The question that we have for you guys is Jimmy Butler the best playoff performer in the last decade? Chaz?
I mean, after this run and seeing Jimmy Butler play at this level 3 out of the last 4 years, obviously getting the Heat to the finals in 2020, getting within one shot of it last year, and then right now they're just one win away from getting there for the second time in the last 4 years. I think he has to be right in that conversation. I mean, we're talking about a decade, so that involves LeBron, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant. There's a lot of guys that you could put in that conversation. I don't know if Jimmy's right at that level, obviously, because he hasn't won a championship like those guys have. But to me, he has to be right in that next tier. I mean, in the last 10 years, he's scored 2,300 points in the playoffs, which that ranks seventh most. And, that's behind guys like Klay Thompson and James Harden, who have played a lot more games than him, but haven't been the player that he is on both ends of the floor. So, yeah, to me, Jimmy Butler has to be in that conversation. We've seen him be at a special level this playoff run. The 56-point game against against the Milwaukee Bucks was a historic scoring performance. He's had games like that multiple times over the last few years. When you do that on a consistent level, a few years in a row, it's not a flash in the pan. It's not one playoff run. It's nothing fluky about it. He is one of the best playoff performers in the league.
Yeah, I can't go one, but I definitely could put him in the category with Steph, with LeBron, with Kevin Durant. He's in that category now. I echo everything that you just said. He is one of the best playoff performers I've ever seen. And we didn't get to see Michael live. We had to go back and rewind some tape to see him. But if we're talking about, just this last decade, obviously there's players that they're better than Jimmy Butler, but I don't think none of them have the type of dog mentality that he has. The person that I think that comes close to that is LeBron, and I don't really consider that LeBron type, that's his style. But obviously, when we're talking beyond this decade, that list gets long, as I mentioned, the MJs, the Magic, whatever case may be. But if we're strictly just talking about this last decade, I will have to put him in the category with Steph, LeBron, KD, and obviously Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, and I think another guy that's probably in that conversation is Kawhi Leonard too. Don't you think he'd be right there? Now, I mean, obviously the 2019 run would be his best mark. He's had a couple other playoff performances that have been impressive, but nothing like that season. Now, do you think since he won the championship that year, that Jimmy needs to finish this off and get his first ring to take that? Do you think Jimmy's already there?
I don't think Jimmy needs a ring to get to that point.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's proven it over the last 4 years.
I think he's a better playoff performer than Kawhi.
If we're talking like their entire career.
If we're talking about for the last decade,
Mhm.
I think he's a better playoff performer than Kawhi.
I'm not mad at that. I mean, it's
Yeah, obviously Kawhi's a better player, overall, but I think he's a better playoff performer than Kawhi.
I think you're right, and part of that is just his availability. I mean, we haven't really seen Kawhi be able to have a Toronto-like run with the Clippers. They got to the second round in the bubble. They also won the series against Dallas a couple years ago, and then they beat Utah in the second round, but Kawhi wasn't in that series. So we haven't really seen that over the last few years. Meanwhile, Jimmy has gotten better and better every single year. And like everybody talks about, he goes from, a top 15 player in the league, all NBA, all-star, really, really good player, great player in the regular season. And he becomes one of like the 5 or 6 best players in the world in the playoffs.
Jimmy is, first of all, he's one of the only players that this next stat happens to. But for one, he has the greatest increase for this next stat. Jimmy Butler is one of the only players from the regular season to the playoffs, his numbers actually elevate.
Yeah.
Like his regular season numbers are, you look at it, he's like, okay, it's impressive. It's not that impressive, but he kicks it into another gear in the playoffs. He has the greatest increase of points from regular season 2 playoffs in anybody in NBA history. He's one of the few players where they actually increase in the playoffs. So with all that, it's just you cannot you can't discredit him what he doing in the regular season. As long as they get to the playoffs, I have no doubt that Jimmy Butler can will a team 2 wins. In 2020, he willed a team to a championship. Well, the finals, not actually winning, but he willed the team to the championship. So he just ran into a LeBron and Anthony Davis team. You know, I think anybody else they're playing, I think Jimmy Butler has a ring. So,
Yeah. Good.
yep.
Cool.